Hi students. So today we are in the new chapter 8, that is international organizations. So you will see in this chapter a few organizations that is going to help less developed countries in many ways. So in the previous chapter we have studied the basis of trade, gains from trade, terms of trade, balance of payment and foreign exchange. So, when trade takes place among countries, the developed countries always stand to gain, and the LDC suffer from adverse terms of trade as well as balance of payment, and they affect their exchange rate. Okay, so we already saw, right, that is this less developed country always suffer from the balance of trade. And also the Great Depression of 1930 and World War II led to purely nationalistic policies in which almost every country imposed trade restrictions. Okay, so in that policies there were some of the restrictions in this trade and exchange controls and the exchange depreciation. So as to boost this exports and to restrict some imports considerably, um, the Bretton Woods conference proposed IMF. Okay, so this conference, that is the World Bank and International Trade Organization in 1944. Okay, before that, here we can see the two persons, that is John Maynard Keynes and Harry Dexter White, the founding fathers of the both World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. So instead of ITO, that is this International Trade Organization, was renamed as GATT. GATT is nothing but General Agreement on Tariff and Trade. So GATT stands for, this will come for your one word, that is, what is the full form of GATT? GATT is nothing but General Agreement on Tariff and Trade. So the GATT was transformed into WTO. So it was transformed to WTO, that is World Trade Organization, in the year 1995. So the IMF, IBRD and WTO headquarters are presented in the table given below. So you can see the institution, that is International Monetary Fund. Its headquarters is Washington DC and it was established in the year 1945. Same like that, World Bank and World Trade Organization also. You can see World Bank headquarters is Washington and it was established in 1945, and WTO, World Trade Organization, its headquarters is at Geneva and established in 1995. So first let us discuss about International Monetary Fund. So the purpose of International Monetary Fund is to secure and promote economic and financial cooperation among member countries. Okay, so this International Monetary Fund gives a security for other member countries by providing the needed finance for the development and upliftment. So it was established to assist the member nations to tide over the balance of payments disequilibrium in the short term. So what is the balance of payment? Balance of payment is unfavorable balance of payment. That is where the receipt is lesser than the payment is known as balance of payment disequilibrium. Okay, where the receipt is lesser than the payment is said to be disequilibrium. So here in this, at present there are 189 member countries with countries. So the last ninth country which joined this IMF is Republic of Nauru. So the Republic of Nauru, at a tiny South Pacific island nation in Pacific Ocean, became the 189th member of the International Monetary Fund. So it is the 189th country which became the member of the IMF. Okay, this will come for your one word. So please note it down. Next is some of the objectives of IMF. So what are the objectives or aim of the IMF is? First is to promote the international monetary or money cooperation among the member nations. Member nations here, that is 189 member nations, has to promote this international monetary monetary fund, and there should be a cooperations between this 189 countries. And next, to facilitate faster and balanced growth. So the growth should be faster as well as it should be balanced. Both the receipt and payment should be balanced. Okay, so that is one of the objective. And your third objective is to ensure exchange rate stability by curbing competitive exchange depreciation. So exchange rate is converting. Okay, so converting the domestic currency into the foreign currency. So it should give the security of exchange rate. Then to eliminate or reduce exchange control, so some of the exchange controls will be imposed, so that should be reduced. Okay, that rules and restrictions should be eliminated, so that the member countries will feel free to exchange their currency values. Next is to establish multilateral trade. So only single trade is only single trade will not be a sufficient one, so there should be a multilateral trade. And also the payment system in respect of the current transactions should be bilateral trade agreements. Okay, it should be based on the agreements. And the next is it should promote the flow of capital from the developed to developing nation. Okay, so that is the trade should be taken place with the developing countries also, so that the capital will be flow to the developing nations, and it will help to make the developing nations as a developed one. Next, to solve the problem of international liquidity. If there is a deficit in the liquidity, it can be solved through this transaction. Okay, so this is one of the main objectives of the IMF. So next, let us discuss the functions of IMF. So functions of IMF, you have exchange stability, facilitate international trade, foster sustainable economic growth, and balance of payment crisis assistance. So first function is bringing stability in exchange rate. So bringing stability in exchange rate, here the IMF is maintaining exchange rate stability and embracing devaluation criteria, restricting members to go in for multiple exchange rate, and also to buy or sell gold at prices other than declared par value. So there should be a stability in the exchange rate. Okay, it should be stable one. So it is also the main function is it makes the members to go for the multiple exchange rate. Okay, and also to buy more gold at prices and sell it. So at and all this should happen with the par value. Okay, and next is correcting BOP disequilibrium. So BOP is a balance of payment disequilibrium. So this disequilibrium should be corrected. So the IMF is helping, the next main function is it is helping the member countries in eliminating or minimizing the short term disequilibrium. Okay, so in their balance of payments, either by selling or lending foreign currencies to the member nation. So by selling or lending the foreign currencies, it reduces the disequilibrium. Next is determining par values. So next function here, IMS enforces the system of determination of par values of the currencies of the member countries. So according to the articles of agreement of IMF, every member nation should declare the par value of its currencies in terms of gold or as US dollar. Okay, so all the currency should be in the terms of gold or US dollars. So under this article, IMF ensures smooth working of international monetary system. So it all happens in the favor of developed countries. So next function is balancing demand and supply of currencies. So next main function is it's balance the demand as well as the supply of the currencies. So the fund can declare a currency as scarce currency, okay, which is in the gray demand and can increase its supply by borrowing it from the country concerned or by purchasing. If there is a scarcity in the currency, it can borrow it from the current country where the currency is abundant. So next is reducing trade restrictions. If there is any restrictions like tariffs or some other barriers imposed, this can be removed by the IMF, okay, to avoid some discriminating practices. And next is providing credit facilities. So it is also providing different credit facilities with the objectives of helping the member countries. So these credit facilities offered by it include basic credit facility, extended fund facility for a period of 3 years. So it is extended for the 3 years, and compensatory financing facility and structure adjustment facility. So some of the functions are grouped under the three heads, that is financial, regulatory, and consultative consultancy. So speaking about the financial, assistant to correct short-term and medium-term deficit in BOP. So this short-term and medium-term deficit is adjusted in the financial function, and some contact are made regulatory, and counseling and technical consultancy is given to the member countries. Okay, so these are the important functions of the IMF. Next is some of the facilities offered by the IMF are: first is facilities offered by IMF. First is basic credit facilities. So the IMF provide financial assistance to its member nations. Okay, it provides the needed finance to the member nations at the time of difficulties. Okay, when the balance of payment is in the disequilibrium, and also member nations can purchase fund other than its currencies or SDR in the form of exchange. It can exchange its own currency in finance payment deficit. So the loan is also repaid when the member repurchases its own currency with other countries. Okay, so even the loans are also repaid by the member by the IMF for its member countries, and a member can unconditionally borrow from the fund in a year of equal to 25% of its quota. So it can borrow 25% of finance from its IMF. So this unconditional borrowing right is called as the reserve tranche. So this will come for your one word. The unconditional borrowing right is called as reserve tranche. So special drawing rights. What is the special drawing rights means? Special drawing rights. The fund has succeeded in establishing a scheme of special drawing right, which is otherwise known as paper gold. Okay, so SDR is also known as paper gold. They are a form of international reserves created in the year 1965 to solve the problem of international liquidity. They are they are allocated to the IMF members in proportion to their fund quotas. STR are used as a means of payment by fund members to meet balance of payments deficits and their total reserve portion with the fund. So if there is any deficit, so it will be reduced through this special drawing rights, okay, which is also known as paper gold. So all transaction by the fund in the form of loans and the repayments is in the form of liquid reserves and capital, etc. So, and it is expressed as SDR. The achievement of the fund can be summed up in the words of Hayne that fund is like an international reserve bank. Okay, so next is extended fund facility. So extended fund facility is, under this arrangement the IMF provide additional borrowing to the members like 140% of the members quota over and above the basic credit facility. So the extended facility is limited for a period of 3 years and the rate of interest is also low. Okay, so in this extended fund facility the additional borrowing facility is up to 140%. Okay, so it can be borrowed above or over and above, and the extended fund period is 3 years and the rate of interest is also low. Okay, so next is compensatory financing facility. So compensatory financing facility, so in 1963 this IMF established a compensatory financing facility to provide additional financial assistance to a member countries. Okay, so the main aim of this one is providing some additional finances to all the member countries, particularly to the primary producing countries. So who is under condition of the primary productions is being given a additional finance, and also the countries which is facing a shortfall in export earning, who's getting lesser amount in the export, is also given the additional finance. So in 1981 the coverage of the compensatory financing facility was extended to payment problem caused by the fluctuation. So this was extended because the problem caused by the fluctuation in the cost of the several inputs. Next is buffer stock facility. So this buffer for stock facility was started in the year 1969. So the purpose of this scheme was to help the primary goods, that is primary goods, here we are speaking about the agriculture goods or food grains, okay, producing countries, to finance contribution to buffer stock arrangements for the stabilization of product prices. So to increase the product price, this buffer stock facility was introduced. Next is supplementary financing facilities. So under the supplementary financing facility, here the IMF makes a temporary arrangements for providing the financial assistance to the member countries for facing payment problems, so relating to the sizes, quota sizes. Okay, and next is structural adjustment facilities. The IMF here established a structural adjustment facility in the year 1986. Here it provides some additional balance of payments assistance on concessional terms to the poorer member countries. So it provides some additional amount to the poor member countries. Okay, so in December 1987 the enhanced structural adjustment facility set up an augment the availability of concessional resources to the low income countries, the countries which is having low income, very less income. Okay, so that type of countries are getting additional income by the IMF. So the purpose of this is to force the poor countries to undertake strong macroeconomic. Okay, if they are strong in the macroeconomic, they will not face the deficit, and structural programs to improve their balance of payment position and promote economic growth. Okay, so these are the facilities offered by the IMF. Next, achievements of IMF. So let us see what are the achievements of IMF. So the main achievements of International Monetary Fund are: first is establishment of monetary reserves. So establishment of monetary reserve fund. The fund has played a major role in achieving the sizable stock of national currencies of different countries. So to meet the foreign exchange requirements of the member nation, this IMF uses its stock to help member nations. So it provides the money reserves, whatever is kept as a reserved amount is given to the member countries to face the requirements. Next is monetary discipline and cooperation. It also achieved some disciplines and cooperation among the member countries. So, and to achieve this objective, it provided some of the assistance only to those countries which make sincere efforts to solve the basic problems. And next is special interest in the problems of UDC. So, the notable success of the fund is the maintenance of special interest in the acute problems of developing countries. The fund has provided financial assistance to solve the balance of payment problem. So, why the fund is provided? To face the balance of payment disequilibrium. So, many UDCs continue to be UDCs, that is underdeveloped countries, continue to be underdeveloped countries, while the developed countries have achieved the sustainable growth. Okay, so still the underdeveloped countries are facing the same problem, but the developing countries as a side, they are developing at a high rate. Okay, so next is India and IMF. So let us see India and IMF. Till 1970, India stood fifth in the fund, and it had the power to appoint a permanent executive director. So it had the power to appoint a permanent executive director, but India has been one of the major beneficiaries of this fund assistance, and also it been getting the various fund agencies from time to time, and has been regularly repaying its debt also. Okay, debt means already I've told you all, right? Kadan. Okay, அதுதான் வந்து debt. You should not pronounce it as debit, it is debt. India's current quota in the IMF is special drawing rights, that is 5821.5 million, making in the 13th largest quota holding at IMF with shareholdings of 2.44%. So, beside receiving loans to meet deficit in its balance of payment, India has benefited to certain other respects from the members of the fund. So, first let us see what is SDR, that is fiat money of the IMF, a potential claim on underlying currency basket. So, what does SDR stands for? Special drawing rights, which is equal to the paper money. And why it was created is to be the world reserve currency. So it's create global liquidity, and it is valued original 1969 creation. So the value of SDR. So this is one of the interior and compulsory question. The value of SDR was initially defined as equivalent to 0.888671 grams of fine gold, so which at the time was equivalent to $1. So it is equal to $1. Okay, so that's all about IMF functions, objectives and achievements. So next class, let us discuss International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, or World Bank. Thank you.